the sad part about it is the engineer who they actually told to erase the music was my roommate. And he apologized to him. He said, man, I was in the studio and they told me to erase the music. And I was like, erase the original masters? That's a sin in the music industry. You don't erase the original masters. And he told me that he told them that what he could do, if they just wanted the vocals, like for a remix thing, is he could take the vocals off and put it on another piece of tape, but you don't erase the original masters. But they insisted that he erase the original masters. So a lot of that songs, like Hennessy, like just so many of the unreleased Tupac music, the original masters have been erased by his estate, sadly. So to answer your question, the originals may be heard in a somewhat degraded form on YouTube, but sadly the estate, in order for them to make that, erase so many of the original Tupac masters.
This is a Jmix exclusive.
That's insane. The original Life So Hard was based off a Led Zeppelin track called Rain, correct?
Right. What Led Zeppelin had done, they were doing a Led Zeppelin tribute album. So they basically handed us Led Zeppelin's anthology. You know what I mean? Run DMC, when they did Walk This Way by Aerosmith, and Led Zeppelin was hoping that Tupac would take a Led Zeppelin song and kind of sample it and do with a Led Zeppelin song what Run DMC had done with Aerosmith's Walk This Way. So that's why they gave us the anthology and said you just use any Led Zeppelin track. But they ended up not using any of it. And Pac actually rapped 3 different songs to that Rain track. He rapped Wonder Why They Call You Bitch, Life So Hard, which was never released. And then when they said, no, we want you to rap a Led Zeppelin, some Led Zeppelin lyrics. This is a Led Zeppelin tribute album, so we want you to kind of, do that. He just did a freestyle that was just unbelievable. Because he was just like, I can't do it. He couldn't find a Led Zeppelin song where he wanted to rap the lyrics to a Led Zeppelin beat, you know what I mean? So those end up being erased. Well, at least they erased that Rain track. I don't know where they got it, and then you hear a different beat underneath. Wonder Why They Call You Bitch,
Sorry, I'm sorry to make you repeat yourself, but you were saying that the original idea was like a Kashmir type of song, but it was Stretch was the one who liked the Led Zeppelin Rain song.
Right. See, that it's kind of like the people who did most of the music was me and Stretch and Pac. We kind of like bounced off each other. You know what I mean? And in other words, like Street Fame on the Thug Life album, I basically had done a track that for me it was kind of like I thought it was because I was doing hip hop and really back then not a lot of people seemed to respect or like hip hop, so they would just hand to me. I actually supervised the mix of Back on the Block with Quincy Jones, and it was actually the title track to Quincy Jones' album. And when they asked me to come in there and kind of supervise the mix, because I kind of knew hip hop and stuff, it amazed me. You know, I was like, I was expecting something different. Let me put it that way. And so I kind of, in my head, kind of thought that the track that I did for that ended up being Street Fame was kind of what I expected to hear Back on the Block to be. You know what I mean? Because Quincy Jones has scored so many movies and stuff, and I just thought it would be something that would sound more like a movie soundtrack type of, sort of gangster vibe. I really didn't get that from the beat from Back on the Block when I was working on it. Well, to me, I was just tripping that I got to work with Bruce Sweeteen. But when actually that song was chosen for the Thug Life album, me and Stretch had sat with my equipment in the hotel room working on a number of beats and waiting for Pac to come in and see which ones he liked. And so, for example, the particular day when Street Fame was chosen, I had sampled the beginning of Marvin Gaye's Flying High in the Friendly Sky. And Stretch had sampled a Curtis Mayfield song that ended up being Stay True. On the Thug Life album. And so when I kind of played the track with Street Fame and then Pac like that, Stretch for the hook just played this boom down, 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 boom down. He played that part over the beat I did. And so it was kind of like the way we worked. It was, we were like co-producing, but it was almost like all three of us, because we would all three sit there and say we like this, we didn't like this. A lot of times I'd play a bunch of parts like over like an ideal that Stretch had, and it would come out. You know what I mean? In other words, a lot of times like keyboard parts, the main like keyboard part would be something Stretch would come up with, and then because I could play, knew the keys and could play, I would play the bass part and the string parts, and then Stretch would do it, put a drum loop on it, like Under Pressure, or God Bless the Dead, or it was like this collaboration going on. You see what I'm saying? So as far as the collaboration on Wonder Why They Call You Bitch and Life's So Hard, when they gave us Led Zeppelin's collection, I wanted to do Kashmir. I did a track for Kashmir. You know what I mean? I was like, this is if there was ever a Led Zeppelin track that could be rapped to, this is the most powerful, hardcore, you know what I mean? But
yes, I agree with you. And you see, maybe 10 years later, Puffy did it.
Yeah,
for the Godzilla soundtrack, he sampled that Kashmir beat.
Yeah. But Stretch liked Rain, so I just sampled to listen to a section of Rain that could be used and play bass and drums. A lot of times we would just like a track and I would just do it, but I would never, you never know what people are going to like or what people are not going to like. But that was Stretch's preference to use that track. You know what I mean? And so they would just say, oh, I like that track. And then it would be my job to loop it up and put drums under it. And that particular track, they just didn't, sometimes they were into doing the music, sometimes they won't. Mostly while I was doing the music, they would do the raps. But because of what happened with his music, I just kind of made a policy to myself to never like lie or front about who did what and whose idea was what and what, you know what I mean? So in that particular track, it was Stretch's idea to use that. And on the original Hennessy, Tupac actually sat down on the keyboard and played a part. And everything that happened, I try to just keep it 100, you know what I mean? Because there's been a lot of lies and a lot of people claiming they did stuff they didn't do and a lot of just craziness. And Pac became so big that I just look at people and go, man, isn't somebody interested in just telling the truth of what happened instead of just trying to take credit for things they didn't do and things they weren't involved with in order to just be on the bandwagon or because the public doesn't really know the truth? And then I guess because I did work with him so much and was involved with so much of the music, I guess it's beneficial for me to tell the truth. Then, and maybe that's the reason why I adapted. I don't know, man. But in all honesty, yeah, that's what happened. I wanted to do Kashmir. You know what I mean? I did the beat and everything with Rain, and they loved it and they rapped over it and everything. But that was Stretch's idea to do that. Yeah.
Now, you brought up Under Pressure. There's a kind of a funny story about that song. That wasn't supposed to be on the Thug Life album, correct?
Right. The day that they were supposed to, finish, master the Thug Life album and turn it in, the song that was supposed to be on there was Running from the Police. And later they put out with, of course, different tracks that they erased the original and Eminem produced it, and they just took everybody else's rap off and just put Pop and Biggie's rap on there. But it was actually the entire Thug Life on the original Running from the Police. But in the beginning of it, there was this little 11-year-old rapper named Vicious of the original version. And he just kept saying, I am a gangster, papa, papa, I am a gangster. And everybody was like, oh, my God. Dan Quayle had already kind of, back when you really criticized Pac and you criticized rap. But with a little 11-year-old kid saying that so convincingly, the record label was like, no, we can't put that out, And so, Stretch called me and said, man, we need to go to Echo Sound, man. They're saying they can't put Running from the Police on the Thug Life album, which was sad because at the time when the Thug Life album was finished and about to come out, Biggie really was a member of Thug Life, basically the word that came down to me was when it came down to deciding who the members of Thug Life were going to be, the kind of joke was that, Biggie was as wide as he was tall. He had one eye that kind of went one way and another eye that went the other way. And, you know what I mean? He just wasn't a very aesthetic person for the videos. And so they really Puff Daddy over at Bad Boy Records, he had success with Craig Mack, who also wasn't a very aesthetic rapper. He had a bunch of, looked like he had a really bad acne problem, and it wasn't, you know what I mean? So maybe send him over there, and, it was jokingly called Ugly Boy Records, and all of this stuff. And for me, it was just like, wow, man, because I've always thought Biggie was incredible rapper. You know what I mean? And long before there was beef or problems or anything like that, those guys were friends. And Biggie was just like a, whew, you know what I mean? Dope ass rapper. So Running from the Police was supposed to be the last song on the Thug Life album. But again, me, Stretch, and Pac just went into Echo Sound Studios there near Glendale, and they kind of, you know, they was like, okay, we got to do this. It's 3 o'clock now. You know what I mean? We got to have this turned in by 5 so the record be mastered. So I just kind of came up with the beat and started playing bass on it and the string parts on it, and tried to do the type of music that I knew that Stretch and Pac like rap, because, you know, they've done so much of it. And they just wrote their raps and recited it and just did the dropouts. And unbelievably, it was 45 minutes later. It was like, it's 3:45, man. We done. We did this song in 45 minutes. You know what I mean? And I guess that's a testimony to, you know, when you work with some guys every day, you know what I mean, for a long time, you know, you kind of get the niche of what they like and how to feel and the feel of the music and everything. And so, but that always, I mean, that was, for the rest of the time when we hung out with each other, that was always the big joke. And we did that song in 45 minutes, less than an hour. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, it was like we was a team. I guess to Tupac, he called him and Stretch thug music, you know. So yeah, that was for us, and the record label liked the song so much that they were going to name the Thug Life album Under Pressure, but they went with Volume 1 instead. Yeah, that was, you know, it's kind of sad for me because a lot of Pac's music was just me, him, and Stretch, or just me and Stretch. You know what I mean? And both of those guys even got killed, and it for me, you know, I don't know how it's supposed to feel, but it's very painful, a lot, especially for the first 4 years after Pac died. For me, it was a very painful time because, you know, these guys, I don't understand. I still ask people, what was it about it that makes it so, you know, such a phenomenon that people just love it so much? I don't get it, because to me it's just pain. The two guys who, first of all, like everybody else who comes to Hollywood to do music, I kind of, you know, wanted to be a record producer, but I never dreamed that it would become that Pac or anything I worked on musically would become, you know, things like everlasting. You know what I mean? And the reason that happened is because Tupac believed in me. You know what I mean? So it's extremely sad for me, at least it was for the first few years, every time I would hear his voice or see a picture of him on somebody's T-shirt or on a poster or something like that. Because here's a guy who took me, just a dance remixer. It wasn't really, it wrote one song on Keith Washington and that's it, and believed in me and wanted me doing his music, and he became the greatest at doing this stuff. You know what I mean? And kind of made me into somebody in the music industry. And so it's an incredible honor, and it's an incredibly great thing for somebody to do for you. You know what I mean? And for him to die, it's tough, especially the way he died. And the fact that it was most of that stuff that I was doing with Stretch, and for him to get killed too, It's just for years, a very, very painful experience, man. Just thinking about Pac.
This is a Jmix exclusive.
What up with shut up?
Hey all, it's Jmix here, and I want to thank everybody that took the time to watch the video. If you liked it, go ahead and throw it a like, maybe even a comment down below. And if you really like my content, check out my Patreon. The link is down below. For $1 a month, you get all the live streams, unedited as soon as they happen, plus interviews in advance and other bonus content. The link is in the description. If not, you guys could always watch one of the videos to the side of me. See you on the next upload. One love, everybody.